table.
Welcome back to Geico Redskins Showtime. We're about 15 minutes into the show, and Steve Zabin already wants to have Mike Shanahan fired.
I did not know.
Gracious.
Stop misquoting me.
That's what we do.
No, I'm not advocating anything. I'm just saying if you're looking at what would happen if it was Marty all over again, one and done, there's justification for, hey, you know, I'm just saying if you didn't know who Mike Shanahan was, if he was Mike Shamrock, the longtime OC at Jacksonville who came here and went through 2 quarterbacks and 2 picks in 8 months, people would be going nuts.
There are a lot of do-overs he'd like to have right now. But,
sure.
Doc, you're out there at Redskins Park, and I'm sure you notice the same thing I do. It's so different than last year when Zorn knew he was going to get fired, and they brought in a new offensive coordinator looking over his shoulder all the time. Shanahan seems pretty comfortable because he knows he's going to be here. He is making the decisions. I hear this all the time. Oh, Snyder must still be in the room. Snyder has his fingerprints all over everything. Mike Shanahan is controlling this franchise right now.
I would agree with you.
There's no other way about it, right?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, they've been maybe a little bit uncoordinated on how certain things have happened. That's been their major problem as far as I see, a lack of communication. You know, good organizations have got to have ways to disseminate information throughout their own rank and file. That's not a good thing there.
Uncoordinated. I like how you describe that. It's like,
that's how I describe it. There's too many innuendos, too many things going on. He said, she said. And the bottom line is that they don't outscore the opponent enough. They ought to be focused on Jacksonville.
Right.
Last 3 weeks, we've had very little conversation about the upcoming opponent.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you said that. Let's talk about Jacksonville in a moment. First, I want to talk about the Redskins defensively and how they've struggled the entire season.
Struggled?
From start to finish, they have ranked dead last in the NFL in terms of yards allowed. We've discussed this before. I don't really care about that stat, but they're 23rd in points allowed. And it's just, it hasn't seemed to get better.
You don't care about that stat.
I think it's an overrated
yards
stat.
allowed is an overrated stat. Interesting.
For a while, they were allowing the most yards in the league, but in terms of points allowed, they're right in the middle.
Okay.
When Doc says it's all about winning, it's all about points allowed. You can bend but not break and have that defensive philosophy. You seem to disagree.
Yards allowed to me is not a stat. It's the ability to stop people.
But the stats can be skewed. I know how. Listen. If people want to kill the scheme, right? You want to kill the scheme. Whoever wants to kill the scheme. I look at it and go, there are people in position, they can't tackle. They're a poor tackling team at times. They've had a horrendous first half in New York. There are times Dallas, Witten is going right to the Hall of Fame. All he's got to do is send that tape in. And he was running virtually alone. So that may be a problem. I just think if you tackle better and you get better people, that it might work.
Right.
But they don't have the better people, and they don't tackle well.
And the scheme not only forced out your star tackle, but it also took 2 really productive guys last year in Carter and in Fletcher, and it minimized them. So, I mean, you know, this is going to be one of the growing pains with the changeover. One thing about last year versus this year, Doc, has been the most divisive year I have ever remembered as a Redskin fan.
Ever.
Yes, divisive to the point where I have friends I can't talk to because we have such bitter differences about what's going on. I have a coworker I can't talk to him anymore because we are on such opposite ends of the spectrum. Think about it. The Hainsworth thing divided this fan base bitterly, and McNabb is like the sequel. It is bitterly divisive. Last year was farce. You know, the back-to-back fake field goals. The bingo caller. It was a laugh fest of ineptitude.
And we thought it would never happen again.
Right.
We thought it could never be that bad.
This year is not so much a laugh fest of ineptitude. It's a bitterly divisive, bad season.
Really quick, the point spread 7 points. Do they beat the Jaguars? Really quickly, we got to go.
No.
You know, yeah, they could.
They could.
But I like Jacksonville because they need to win the game.
All right.
And I don't know if we're going to tackle the bowling ball out of UCLA.
They could. Doc Walker, Steve Zabin, both from ESPN 980. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
You got to get his name back.
We'll be right